Hey everyone, Mike Wardinski here from naturemike.com, and today I'm going to show you how to fake a good sunset. Here I am in Iceland, and you can see this sunset sort of teased us a little bit, but it didn't quite turn into a zinger, and that's what we're going for. It's kind of this sort of light pale, white, yellow, almost a bit of a green cast here. And so I want to warm this up a little bit, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks to do that. First things first, we're going to head over to the local adjustments, and we're going to choose our radial gradient. I'm going to click and draw. I'm going to draw a really big one here because we have this light source and it's kind of feathering into the scene, and so that's exactly what I want to do. Now, if your radial gradient has a feather that sort of looks like this, what you want to do is grab this red point and drag it all the way in, and that's going to feather our gradient as much as possible. And next we're going to go over to color, and we're just going to warm this up a little bit. And I'm going to go to the tint slider and bring that to the right just a little bit as well. And I might even bring this in so it feathers into the scene even a little bit more, maybe something like so. And now I'm going to click another new mask and choose radial gradient. And I want to kind of feather this up into this blue area just a pinch more. And so I'm going to go ahead and drag another one, maybe something like so, drag it up top. And again, just warm this up ever so slightly, maybe like 8 or 7 or so. And then I'm going to push this one a little bit heavier towards the magentas, maybe like 21. And I'll drag that down. You kind of see it's not doing a ton. It's just warming it up just ever so slightly. So maybe something like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and close out of our mask, and we're going to go to color grading. And I'm going to go to the highlights, and I'm going to grab this circle, and I'm going to push it over towards the right. And then I can grab this outside circle and change the hue. If I want to make it more red, I can come down here. If I want to make it more yellow, I can come here. And let's just kind of stick in this yellow section here. And next, I'm going to go to my mids, and I'm going to tint those as well. But this time, probably warm them up just a little bit more. And there we go. Now if I turn this layer on and off, you can see it's kind of creating this glow that sort of goes throughout the scene through the highlights into the midtones. And in this case, I'm going to leave the shadows alone. And lastly, I want to see if I can address these highlights over here. So I'm going to create a new layer mask, and I'm going to choose another radial gradient. Just sort of draw it in over here like so. I'm going to take down the whites, and I'm going to take down, actually, I think I might leave the highlights alone and maybe increase the yellows and potentially the magentas a little bit just to kind of create a little more saturation in here. In fact, maybe even just add a pinch of saturation as well. I might pull the whites back just a little bit. I want to bring a little highlights in there. And I think that looks pretty good. We can go ahead and turn that on and off. In fact, these highlights are a little gray now, so I'm going to pull back the whites even just a pinch more, make them a little bit brighter, and there we go. And so this is the before, and this is the after. And you can see without a lot of effort, we were able to come quite a long ways and really make this image pop. Now, if I want to continue working on the rest of the image really quickly, I might go ahead and add another radial gradient and kind of draw this in the center here, maybe kind of angle it so it kind of fits with the light and the shape of the icebergs. In this case, I'm just going to pop these whites because I want those to show up just a little bit more. And in fact, I'm going to add another radial gradient up top and maybe increase the brightness of these clouds up in the sky all the way from the left over here. And again, we're just going to use the whites to do that. And maybe I'll tint these just a little bit more as well. And with the yellow, and then a little bit more with the magenta. And there we go. And I think I'm going to darken the corners here. And so I'll use a linear gradient. So back to our adjustments. And we'll choose linear gradient. And I'm just going to sort of create a vignette here, but only in the bottom. So bringing this in, and then I'm going to take the exposure just down a little bit, and that's just going to darken our water and make us focus on these icebergs. And let's do another one over in the other corner. And this time I'm just gonna hit the M key. That's the shortcut for the linear gradient. There we go. And I'm gonna take the exposure down there as well. And we've got this water in the center. I'll hit Shift M. That's the keyboard shortcut for the radial gradient. And just kind of try and fit that in with the water the best I can. Take exposure down there. I'm gonna feather this out quite a bit. Maybe something like so. And I think that might be getting a little too dark. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that and bring the exposure up a little bit. Maybe to like -16. Let's turn that on and off. There we go, that's a little bit better. And I'll go ahead and turn my adjustments off and hit F for full screen. And there you go, without a lot of effort, we've completely transformed this image using only local adjustments. Now, if I wanted to, I can kind of come in here and do some minor adjustments, maybe increase the shadows, decrease the highlights a little bit, bring up the whites, and pull down the blacks just to kind of get some really nice contrast. And there we go. Now you can see the area that I protected is starting to blow out again, and I don't really mind that so much because it is this sort of radiant glow that's kind of pushing out into the scene. But if I wanted to tame that down a little bit, again, I could hit snapshots. I'm gonna go back to my mask in the sky, which is right here, and then maybe pull the highlights down a little bit and the whites down a little bit more. I'm gonna increase the size of this because I don't want it to be too obvious of what I'm doing. And I may even come in and use a luminance range mask. So I'm gonna go ahead and subtract luminance range. And I'm gonna take the right side of the luminance down just a little bit so I'm not affecting that. And what I'm gonna do is bring that down, but then grab this right side, and that's gonna allow me to kind of feather that out a little bit. So maybe something along the lines of this. And if we want, we could even start to subtract this using a brush. So again, I'm gonna choose luminance range and choose subtract, choose my brush, and then I'm gonna make sure my flow is set kind of low, and also my density maybe down to like 60. And then I'm just gonna take my brush and just kind of feather out that darkness that's hitting in the higher clouds. So just like so. Maybe a little bit down here as well. And I'll go ahead and hit a snapshot. And we can close out these masks and then hit that before and after. And this is looking a little gray to me, so I'm gonna go back to my mask, choose the radial that I initially put in there, and I'm gonna push my whites up just a little bit and maybe pull the highlights down and see what that gives me. I think that's looking pretty good. I'll hit a snapshot, close out my mask, and kind of bounce between the two. Yeah, that's looking a lot more natural. You can see how gray this is looking. And if I come down to this one, we have a few spots where we're getting pretty bright, but I think that's gonna be okay. Worst case scenario, we could kind of come back in and touch that up with a brush or bounce over to Photoshop. That's it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also check out naturemike.com for some in-field workshops, private post-processing lessons, and how-to articles.